All right, in honor of Brent Musburger, we're looking live at Mr. Joey Buchholz. Some call him Joey Parmesan. I call him the coolest guy who created the Utopian Baseball Universe. And every week he is here to tell us about what's going on in not only our universe, our baseball universe called MLB, but the Utopian Baseball Universe. Now, I don't know what's going on, so I need Joey to fill me and you in. So, Joey, take it away.
All right. Good morning, Stan. And good morning, Baseball Way of Lifers. So the Utopian Baseball Universe has its final week of regular season games kicking off today. So we're finishing our season just like we did last year with division games. We'll just kind of briefly look at what the schedule looks like, and then take a look at the standings, and then some of the statistical leaders heading into the final week of the regular season. So tonight, we actually have our Field of Dreams game. When Major League Baseball canceled their Field of Dreams game in 2020, we went ahead with ours. So we had Yankees, White Sox last year. I think the Yankees won last year like 11-6. This year we've got Brewers and White Sox at 5:30 tonight. Teddy Higuera versus Lucas Giolito. That'll be live on Xbox tonight. We've got Red Sox and Orioles tonight. Smokey Joe Wood versus Jim Palmer. Phillies and Nationals. Tomorrow we've got Mets and Blue Jays. Tom Seaver versus Marcus Stroman. Yankees and Expos tomorrow. Today the Reds have a chance to clinch the North as they host the Tigers. That's going to be at 3 o'clock, and we're commemorating the 1940 World Series in that game. In what could be a North Division wild card preview, we've got Pittsburgh at Cleveland starting tonight. We've got the Twins and Cubs this week. In the West Division, we've got Giants at Rockies. Christy Mathewson versus Rube Foster should be a great one tonight. A's at Diamondbacks. Mariners at Angels. Ken Griffey versus Mike Trout. San Diego versus the Dodgers. And then in the South Division, we've got Durham at Texas, Atlanta at Houston. Atlanta can clinch a playoff berth today with a win. We've got the Rays and Royals, and Marlins at Cardinals. So this is what the standings look like with 6 games left for each team. Toronto has a 3-game lead on Washington and Boston, a 6-game lead on Philly and the Mets. In the North, the Reds with a 6-game lead on the Indians, 9 up on the Pirates. In the West, we have the Giants with a 6-game lead on the Angels, 7 up on the Padres, with the A's, Dodgers, and Rockies still mathematically in it. And in the South, we've got the Braves with a 2-game lead on Durham, 3 up on Tampa, and 6 up on Florida. All of those teams still in the hunt. But again, the Braves can clinch at least a playoff berth today with a win in Houston, because then that would prevent the Marlins from catching them in the standings. So I did the math this morning, Stan. 21 of 32 teams still alive in the Utopian Baseball Universe. And I know your viewers love stats, and I know you love stats as well. This is what the statistical leaders look like heading into the final week. We have 4 hitters in the universe with over 30 homers. Last year we had 2. This year we have 4 so far. Bryce Harper with 35 homers. Jeff Bagwell with 33. Ken Griffey Jr. with 32. And Reggie Jackson with 31. On Saturday, Sammy Sosa tied the all-time record for RBIs in a season with 114. That's where he sits right now. Carlos Delgado has 113. And then next would be Bagwell at 105. And Bryce Harper and Willie Stargell each with 101. Joe DiMaggio has 40 doubles. Tris Speaker's right behind him at 38. It looks like Willard Brown is going to win the triples crown with 15. And then our batting title is very intriguing right now. Todd Helton is percentage points ahead of Wally Joyner at 339.4. Joyner's at 339.1. Rogers Hornsby at 333. Ty Cobb at 331. And then 5 and 6 are Joe DiMaggio and Nap Lajoie. As far as pitching goes, Addy Joss last night failed in his attempt to win number 20. He gets one more shot at it this weekend. Smokey Joe Williams leads the universe in strikeouts with 213. We've got 3 pitchers in the running for the ERA crown: Hilton Smith, Bob Gibson, and Jose Rio. And then Bruce Sutter leads the universe in saves with 28. That's what the stats look like heading into the final days of the Utopian. It's going to be an exciting week.
Sounds good. And you ever look at the pitching matchups and see TBD? And there's a lot of TBDs pitching every day. Well, when we do these broadcasts, we get a lot of Facebook users coming up, posting questions. I don't know who they are. I think I actually have to go into the live Facebook feed to feed, but you're a StreamYard expert, so it just comes up Facebook user.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to call it FU short, so I don't have to keep saying Facebook. No, I'm only kidding. It's Facebook user, and they have a question for you.
Sure.
What does the Utopian playoff format look like?
Great question. So what we do is we have 12 teams make the postseason. We have 4 divisions of 8, regional divisions, north, south, east, and west. On Wednesday, September 29th, we kick off our postseason with Wild Card Wednesday. The 3rd division team in each division will travel to the 2nd place team in a 1-game playoff. The winner of that will then go to the regular season champion for the divisional championship series in a 1-2-2 format. So the winner of the division will host game 1. The wild card winner will get games 2 and 3. And then, if necessary, the regular season winner will host game 4 and 5. So the only way a wild card can win that series at home is if they sweep. And I did that on purpose to make sure that there was an advantage to the division winner getting the last 2 games, if necessary, in that series. Then, you know how the NCAA has the Final 4? We call our version the table. So we're going to have 1 team from each division represent the universe at the table. This year it's the East versus the South and the North versus the West. And then those winners will face each other in the Utopian Baseball Universe Championship Series. Last year won by the Braves, who beat the Reds. And it's looking very much like those 2 teams will make the postseason this year. The Reds are already qualified. The Indians have qualified and the Giants have qualified, with the Pirates and Braves being able to qualify today with wins. So that's how we do it. All 4 wildcard games will be live on the Utopian Baseball Universe Network on Facebook and YouTube. We'll be announcing those game times on Friday in the Utopian Cafe.
Okay, now I just have a few general questions. They may seem a little trivial, but how is home field determined in the playoffs? Is it the team with the best record in each situation? Or is it predetermined like it used to be for the World Series, like the National League alternates with the American League for the series championship and what have you?
So that's another great question, and I actually took a lot of time to determine this when we created the universe a couple years ago. So for the wildcard games, obviously the 2nd place team will host the 3rd place team. In the divisional championship series, it's obviously going to be the regular season winner will get home field. At the table and the championship series, home field is actually determined by the 3-game regular season series, because you only play teams outside of your division 3 games a year. So, for example, and I don't have the results in front of me, right now the top 2 teams as far as in their divisions that could potentially play each other if they advance would be the Giants and Reds. They actually opened the season against each other this year, and the Reds, I believe, won that series. So the Reds, regardless of if they had a better record than the Giants, would actually get home field in that series. As it turns out, the Reds do have the best record in the universe. But if, let's say, for example, the Reds lost 2 of 3 versus Boston this year, even if Boston has a worse record than the Reds, Boston would then get home field on the Reds because they won that regular season series. We do that because we want the regular season games to be as meaningful as possible, especially because these non-division teams only play each other 3 games a year. We want, whether that game's in April or September, to have a big feel to it. So as we get closer to the postseason kicking off next week, we'll start letting the universe know what those scenarios look like as far as who could be hosting games. We'll probably do that as we determine who those wild card winners are going to be.
Okay, now this is a 2-part question. We see the St. Louis Cardinals getting red hot at the right time now, and there's certain teams like the Toronto Blue Jays getting red hot at the right time. Before you answer this question, I have another one after this. Is there a team or teams that are really, really tearing it up the last couple of weeks? Is it my imagination, or are the Reds pulling away? Because I thought they were pretty close with Cleveland for a while.
So it's funny because 2 months ago, the Pirates actually led this division for like 2.5 months, kind of like the Mets in Major League Baseball. The Pirates were the top team for like 2 months. And the Reds have just been consistent all year. And now in the last 6 weeks, the Reds have pulled away. The Reds have a 6-game lead on the Indians right now. The Reds only have to win 3 of their next 6 games to break the Dodgers record from last year for most wins in the regular season, 95. So they're at 93 right now. If you look at run differential, the Reds are number 1 in the universe. If you look at bullpen ERA, they're number 1 in the universe. They have some unfinished business. They actually lost the championship last year in 5 games. So they have some unfinished business. They're going to be really tough to beat in the postseason. Another team that seems to be kind of pulling away is the Giants. The Giants actually were a 6th place team last year. They were in 3rd place, I believe, at the end of the first half of this season. They had a big series where I believe they swept San Diego earlier in the season, and they've kind of pulled away. They have a 6-game lead with 6 left. So it's looking like right now the Giants and Reds could be on a possible collision course on one side of that bracket, and then the other side looks like it's still wide open. Braves with a 2-game lead on Durham. Toronto, there have actually been 3 teams in first place in the East in the last 10 days. The Red Sox, the Nationals, and the Blue Jays. Currently, it's the Blue Jays 3 games up. It's all about momentum heading into that postseason, and it's so important, for these teams that qualify to get that regular season win. They don't have to worry about a one and done. They can set up their pitching. So it's going to be a really, really interesting end to the season as far as who qualifies and then who gets hot here in mid-September.
These are kind of off-the-wall questions here. Does the Utopian Baseball Universe have winter meetings where they probably discuss changes for the upcoming season? Like for 2022, do the owners gather around and talk about what may change in the upcoming season?
So the one difference between last year and this year, last year we did the universe for about 60 people, and the changes were made pretty much behind the scenes, and then I would just kind of share them. It's going to be really interactive this year. The fans of each team will have say in what the rosters will look like for 2022. We're going to have a theme. We're actually incorporating the greatest players from the 19th century will be incorporated into rosters this winter. I haven't decided when that's going to happen, but I'm going to probably work with a couple members of the universe to help me make sure that I'm not leaving anyone out. We're also going to have some big-name free agents that have never competed in the universe, and I do that on purpose so that each year we have some new names that we can add. Cy Young is joining the universe in 2022. Sadahara O, the all-time leading professional home run hitter, will be joining the universe in 2022. And we'll have some other big names as well. We are changing some of the, television coverage, if you will. We're going to get rid of MLB Network just because I think it's confusing. We're UBU. Why would MLB Network be, airing UBU? So we're going to rebrand that as just the UBU Network. We're going to increase our ESPN coverage. We hope to just create more original content next year. And I've been telling the universe, if you want your own show, let me know. I'd love to have other people present content rather than just, these $2 shirts that you see every morning from Walmart. So, yeah, I mean, we don't have, formal meetings per se, but I'll probably just be reaching out to people on how we can make this bigger and better for 2022.
That's good. You're always looking to improve. And I always say, yeah, even if you think it's perfect, you always have to change things just to keep it more interesting for everybody. Always pique their interest. So
Yeah.
good job on your part on that. And what was the other stupid? Not stupid. I shouldn't say stupid. I'm saying stupid because my questions are stupid. I forgot what the other one was. I can't even read my own handwriting. I'm one of those people. I'm like a doctor, except I'm not as smart as a doctor. But anyway, oh shoot, I forgot what I can't even read this now. But as you're talking, I always write things down, and 80% of the time I can figure out what I meant. But I'm sure if it pops into my head, I'll think, oh, I know what it was. Now I see what I wrote here. I deciphered it. I kind of think I know the answer to this. Is there any collective bargaining contract that's due to expire, or is everything always okay in the baseball universe where contract never has to be negotiated?
So, one of the main principles of the Utopian Baseball Universe is that we keep the things we love about baseball and we eliminate the things that are troublesome. So we're not going to have a work stoppage. We're not going to have holdouts. We're not going to have we're not going to lose a postseason to a strike or a lockout. The most common question I get as it relates to the rosters is, will there ever be free agency trades? And as of right now, we're not going to trade players. One of the things, and I'll give an example here. I've got a friend of mine named Jessica Bailey. Her son is a big Indians fan, and it broke his heart when Francisco Lindor was traded from the Indians to the Mets. And they had just joined the universe like 2 days earlier. And I wanted to assure her, I actually had him on the show. They appeared together, and I said, Max, Lindor is going to be an Indian for life in the Utopian Baseball Universe. So I don't want to fold on that promise to younger fans. So, the Mariners have struggled in the first 2 years, but in 2022, you're guaranteed to have Ken Griffey, Ichiro, Alex Rodriguez, Felix Hernandez. There might be at some point we make some changes where, Manny Machado is not going to get too many at-bats behind Cal Ripken in the Utopians. So maybe we find a home for him. But I can't put him in San Diego because they've got Fernando Tatis, they've got Ray Dandridge. So I think the way we keep it fresh is we incorporate new names each year, whether it's a young superstar or some of these players that we've purposely left off of rosters to give it kind of a fresh feel each year. But yeah, we're not going to see work stoppages. We're not going to see, players tanking to try to get traded and stuff like that. We want to try to keep it as perfect as possible, based on the fictitious aspect of what we're trying to do here.
And I guess you kind of answered one of my questions because, believe it or not, you must have read my mind when you were speaking. One of the topics was going to be Alex Rodriguez. Well, he always remained a Mariner. And then you can go right down the list of other players, Keith Hernandez, Gary Carter, who basically did just as well with both teams. Do these players ever have a shot at playing for both franchises, or is it like with the Lindor situation where you like to keep them with the team where you think they were more established than anywhere else?
Again, I'm not opposed to in the future having some movement. I actually, one of the ideas that I had was maybe after 5 or 6 years where we just do a complete redraft where, if you're a fan of, let's say, the Baltimore Orioles, maybe you have a chance at a Ken Griffey or a Willie Mays. I think that'd be fun. Especially for the first year, but it would be so hard for me to keep track of because I would make so many mistakes on the air. And to keep track of that, I think would be really tough. I think, again, the way to keep it fresh is each year we incorporate, 2 or 3 new players per team. We keep it fresh by introducing new pitching matchups. So Randy Johnson's been an ace the last couple of years. He struggled this year. Maybe he's a 2 next year. And that way we can get, a Randy Johnson versus Greg Maddux. We can get, maybe a Tom Seaver versus Don Drysdale, things that, it's for the most part, it's ones versus ones, twos versus twos as far as pitching goes. But as far as rosters, again, I'm not opposed to having some movement in the future, but I really want to limit that because I don't want to alienate the fan that, Cubs is a good example. They've got Baez, Rizzo, and Bryant in that Cubs roster. I don't want to take them off there because, we have a lot of Cubs fans in the group that, maybe they're not going to see those players in Major League Baseball again, but if they know that they can show up as Cubs every day in the Utopian, I think that'll be fun for them. Like all my favorites are on the Mets and the Brewers rosters: Gorman Thomas, Rob Deere, Keith Hernandez, Lenny Dykstra. For me to put Dykstra on the Phillies, I think wouldn't be fun for me. To have Keith Hernandez play for the Indians, I think would be silly. So I think we're just going to kind of keep it like this for now, and then just each year kind of entertain the thought of maybe some type of movement.
Yeah, the one way when I always say which player, like say Keith Hernandez, was more relevant for the Mets to Cardinals, my rule of thumb is, and it breaks my heart every time I do it, I go on Baseball Reference and see what cap they have that player wearing. And Keith Hernandez is wearing a Cardinal cap. Gary Carter's wearing an Expo cap. So it's always got, I think A-Rod may actually be wearing a Yankee cap. I'm not sure. But I always say, like, who do they think, I guess, based on their statistical analysis and whatever. So that's usually my rule of thumb there. But every time I do that, I just get brokenhearted. I always want the guy to be on the other team all the time.
Yeah.
And then one more question. I'm like Columbo here. One more question. And the thing is, I never have these prepared. It's just that you inspire me to come up with questions. When a player has a horrible year, now, was it you, Darvish, is like 2-15 or something like that? Do you ever consider dropping him for the next year because of his bad season?
So another great question. So last year's rosters it's funny. Last year's rosters were created like 6 days before opening day. It was a scramble, and I left guys off. And this year I put a lot of thought into it. So what I do is, Yu Darvish is a great example because he was not on a roster to begin 2020. I brought him up as kind of a midseason call-up for the Rangers. He pitched well enough last year to earn an opening day start this year versus the Mets. And it just so happens that despite not pitching that terribly, he's 2-16. So Yu Darvish will not be dropped from the Rangers. He'll still represent Texas next year, but whether he makes the rotation or gets an opening day start has yet to be determined. He's one of my favorite pitchers. When he was pitching prior to Major League Baseball, I was warning friends, look out for this name, Yu Darvish. So to make this as authentic as I can, performance this season will affect what rosters look like next year as far as where a starting pitcher may fall in a rotation, who's going to earn a certain job at a certain position. I'll give you one example. For whatever reason, despite the Nationals being very good this year, Daniel Murphy has struggled and has given up some at-bats in the recent 4 to 6 weeks to Luis Garcia. So that'll be a battle maybe next year. Maybe the universe votes for that. Maybe I bring back some names from last year, like Bill Terry, player manager for the Giants. I think he hit 424 one year or 420 one year. He was on the roster last year. I didn't include him this year. Maybe we bring back a Bill Terry type player. Lefty Grove was not on a roster last year. I made him the opening day starter in Oakland, and he struggled mightily. So he's still on a roster, but he's not in a rotation right now. So yeah, I mean, to keep it authentic, we want to have some sanctity as far as how their performance does this year will affect how much of those players we'll see in 2022.
That's cool. Bill Terry, if you're a Keith Hernandez fan, he mentions Bill Terry at least 2 or 3 times during the season. About he was the last 400 hitter in the National League. But I think that may have been also the most productive offensive year ever in the National League, because I think he said how many 300 hitters they had that year. So it's kind of relative, but still batting 400 regardless is amazing. But Keith is always good to mention him 2 or 3 times. He loves the Giants and he loves Bill Terry. Well, Bill Terry was a first baseman too. That's basically it for all the questions I have. If there's anything else you want to add about the Utopian Baseball Universe at the moment, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, so again, the Field of Dreams game is today at 5:30 between the Brewers and White Sox. It's going to be a different telecast. Obviously, I can't incorporate the field into the game, but it's going to be minimal play-by-play, minimal sound effects. It'll just be you guys watching the game. We're going to have Pirates and Indians tomorrow night, and then Padres at Dodgers on Wednesday night. That'll be interesting. Dave Dravecky versus Clayton Kershaw, both teams still in the mix there. And then, like I said, heading into this weekend, so much has yet to be determined. So you'll just have to kind of pay attention to what's going on. Again, 11 games today, highlighted by that Field of Dreams game that's going to air at 5:30 tonight.
Will Kevin Costner be showing up?
Sure.
The whole cast is going to be there. We'll do it even better in Major League Baseball. The whole cast is going to be there.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is last year I incorporated Moonlight Graham into a storyline. He actually was on the Giants roster. And, of course, he's not just a character in that movie. He actually did play Major League Baseball for the Giants. And last year I got him. It was an Xbox game. I had him get his at-bat, and he did the same thing I think he did in the movie. I think it was a sac fly. So I'm like, I got to get him another at-bat here because I don't want to just rewrite history. And he actually had an RBI ground out later in the game. So he actually had 2 RBIs without getting a base hit in last year's game. So I didn't want to milk that too much. We gave Larry Yount some appearances last year. Of course, he's the brother of Hall of Famer Robin Yount. He injured himself pitching. He was actually on the mound. He was announced for the Astros in 1971, but never entered the game because he injured himself. So we put him on the Astros last year. He got some appearances. I think he even earned a win. But we want to try to create new storylines. I'm not going to repeat stuff like that every year, but it's going to be a fun end of the season with all these teams still in the mix.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Larry Yount because I guess a few weeks ago, it was his birthday or the day he actually took the mound, threw one warm-up pitch and got hurt. Well, Major League Baseball didn't acknowledge the fact he was a major leaguer because of that fact. But just recently, they determined that because he was announced and he was on the mound, he gets credit for being a major leaguer, even though he didn't throw that pitch. And Moonlight Graham, every year on the Baseball Way of Life site, I commemorate his birthday. And it's amazing how many people don't know that he was an actual player. They're amazed. Like their jaws drop. They're actually, I show the picture of them and everything, that there actually was a Moonlight Graham. So that's always a thrill for me when people recognize the fact that Moonlight Graham was actually a player. Anything else maybe in the real baseball world you want to talk about? Or
Well, I'm excited. I'm going to see my first game in 25 months on Friday as the Mets are visiting Milwaukee. So we're going to try to leave early. If we don't tailgate, we're going to walk the concourse and definitely get a brat or a hot dog or both. So I'm really excited for that. And I think the Mets travel to Fenway tomorrow. So I think it's a 2-game series at Fenway. So that'll be fun. Keeping an eye on that. And again, until they're eliminated, until I see that E next to them in the standings, they're 5.5 out with 14 to play. So still rooting on the Mets as I know you are as well.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is you had the Cardinals play the Padres, and it's a lose-lose situation because one of those teams is going to win anyway. So when you get these two teams we're chasing playing each other, it hurts. But you're right. I don't know what the combinations are. I haven't gotten out my calculator yet, but we're still alive. So just keep plugging along.
Yep.
And Milwaukee is big. That's big tailgating for a baseball game, isn't it? The Mets always show people in the parking lot hours before the game tailgating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the origins are, but I know Milwaukee is known for being the originators of tailgating. I know it's big in Cleveland as well for Browns games, but Yeah, Milwaukee. Nobody does a tailgate like Milwaukee. One of my favorite parts of walking up to the stadium is just walking by everyone's spread. I've oftentimes pretended I've known the person, like, oh, hey, oh, and just try to throw out a common name, like, oh, I'm Bob's cousin. See if that sticks, and see if I can get, a Polish sausage or some ribs.
Yeah, I used to tailgate with a friend of mine. He used to throw the big tailgate party at the gym. The same thing would happen. And I think they went there just because they knew they'd get a beer by saying hello. So after a while, you actually had to like be invited because too many people were crashing his tailgate parties. He was giving more beer to strangers than he was to the people who were actually invited to the tailgate. But if you can be the recipient of that. All right. So now we're just gonna. On a whim, I just came up with some questions. I hope they're good ones.
They're always fantastic questions.
Stop bullshitting me.
Come on.
Here we go. Question number 1. Any thoughts on the Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis flare-up and your thoughts on the Padres' demise in 2021?
So I'll be honest, I haven't seen it yet. I've seen it referenced, but I've just haven't been curious enough to actually watch it yet. Just with a busy weekend going on. But as far as like their demise, I was one of the guys that at the beginning of the season said, hey, they're going to take the West. They've got so much talent. But I don't even know if, as of right now, if they even qualify for the postseason.
They're 3.5 out.
Yeah.
That's a rough road for them. And I do remember you talking about the Padres winning. So that's subliminally, I threw that question in there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's a lot of talent. I think they'll be fine, coming into next year with Darvish and Snell, and Tatis is still a monster, and he's like 22, 23, so they're going to be fine. Maybe they don't figure it out this year, but I think there's enough talent, and the fan base I think still believes in them long term.
Well, the gist of the argument was, from what I gather, is Manny Machado was yelling at Fernando Tatis. It isn't only about you. I guess he was arguing with the umpire, and it was about his at-bat and whatever.
No.
I don't know what became of it. I don't know if they made up or whatever, but if you haven't seen the clip, Manny Machado was pissed off. And at first I thought they were just having an argument, but it was basically supposedly Manny Machado being the team leader and saying, it's a team game, not just about you and your at-bat all the time. So
sure.
They didn't take well to that. Now, here's a little bit of one that's a roundabout question. What player who is currently not in the Hall of Fame should definitely be there?
I mean, there's the obvious ones. I mean, I had to explain to my daughter when she was young because there was a show on the Hall of Fame, and she, for a young child, she has a good understanding of what it means to be there. And she said, Daddy, I can't wait to go to the Hall of Fame because we can see, like, the all-time hit leader. And I'm like, well, he's not in there for gambling. And then she's like, well, we can see the all-time home run leader. And I'm like, well, he's not in there because of steroids. Okay, well, what about, the best modern-day pitcher of the last 60 years? Oh, you mean Roger Clemens? Yeah, he's not in there either. So I believe all of those players are Hall of Famers because I think they were all Hall of Famers before any, gambling or steroid use. But as far as personally, like I think Keith Hernandez belongs in, and the only reason he's not is because of the cocaine trials. If we just look at what he did on the field, in my opinion, he's the greatest defensive first baseman of all time. He was like having a manager out there. When they don't keep track of the stat anymore, but when it was an official statistic, Keith Hernandez was. Well, that and game-winning RBIs.
Right. That's what it was, game-winning RBIs. He had like 110 game-winning RBIs, right?
Yeah, and I just think, like, if I'm building a team, I know he's not a 40 home run guy, he's not a 380 hitter, but, like, I'm building with guys like Keith Hernandez. So, personally, I would love to see him get in. If they're not going to recognize him as a player, he's, without a doubt, a Hall of Fame analyst.
Right.
The best booth in baseball by far, Cohen, Keith, and Ron. I mean, they're just so good. I dare to say that he's a better analyst than he was a player because they're so entertaining in that booth together. But if I have to choose only one, I'm going Keith Hernandez.
And so would I. And this can, what you just said again, I get like 20 questions rolling in my head. But Keith Hernandez, too, if Ken Harrelson's in as a color commentator, how can you not have Keith Hernandez in it? Even as a color commentator and not have him in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And as far as the Pete Rose thing, it's very hypocritical. I watch a Met pregame show, and there's 4 ads for gambling and what the odds are. Rich Hill is minus 170 to throw, strike out 4 guys. It's hypocritical. If you're going to allow all this gambling on all these, and now you watch the NFL every quarter, they got gambling commercials up there, but that's not the baseball world. But baseball world too condones it, and their broadcast too. So that's hypocritical. It's time to let Pete in. His body of work, he bet on his own team, from what I gather. There's no evidence that he bet against his own team. And if you bet on other teams, it's just like me or you going up to. If we own a horse and go into a racetrack and betting on another horse in another race that your horse isn't in. So I think that's hypocritical. As far as the steroids are concerned, baseball condoned it at that point. There was no punishment for guys like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds. So what they did ethically may not have been right because they're using substance to improve their performance, but it wasn't outlawed by baseball. And Alex Rodriguez is the first one that got punished for it. But I think even he should be considered for the Hall of Fame because he basically served his suspension, was over a year long. That's what baseball said. We're going to punish you for doing what you did. And he could have been the all-time home run leader. I'm not saying he would have, but he had a damn good shot at it. And that's how he was punished. So you shouldn't punish him for that because he was punished for his actions. A-Rod's the one that's a little bit more questionable because he knew it was illegal at the time. But the other ones, Bonds, McGuire, Sosa, whatever, they should be applauded for their efforts. I mean, they did what they thought they should do to improve their performance, and everything they did at that time was not illegal by baseball. Yeah. All right, calm down, Stan. Calm down. All right. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. What is your favorite sport, if any, to play besides baseball?
To play basketball, easily. I don't follow the NBA. But as far as playing, I used to have a regular game with a friend named Mike. We'd play almost every weekend for about 10 years. The last time we played was whatever year Wright was a rookie, 06, 05, right around that time. But I still love playing. Obviously, I'm not playing as much anymore. But there's actually a court right down the street from me. They just have to, the rim is 30 years old and there's no net. But I would love to just shoot around. I actually, if you guys can see right behind me, I installed a Nerf basketball that I use on a daily basis. So, yeah, as far as playing, it's basketball without a doubt.
Yeah, the thing I like about basketball is when I was growing up and we had a hoop in my driveway, and that's one of the sports that, I mean, you could play baseball with a pitch back or hit out of hand or whatever, but basketball, you just grab a basketball and you can shoot away and let your imagination run away. Yeah. I used to think I was all 5 nicks and passing the ball to myself on different parts of the court there, but that's the story for another day. All right. And then, of course, we know you're a big football fan. And any thoughts on week 2 in the NFL?
Another great national game last night, Baltimore and Kansas City, very entertaining.
I knew that was going to be good. I knew that was good. As soon as they came out of the gates smoking with the offense. So.
Yeah, it just very entertaining. I'm a Browns fan. The Browns got a win yesterday. Their home opener. I think the Packers have their home opener tonight against the Lions. Fantasy, I'm 2-0 last night. So
nice.
I'm 3-1 in the two leagues that I run. So that's why I kind of pay attention to the NFL the way I do. Is I actually love fantasy football, and so I always make sure if the Packers or the Browns are on that I don't make plans for the evening. So I
guess you're not going anywhere tonight then, huh?
Nope. I work at the store from 11 to 3 today, and then we're making tacos tonight. I know it's not Tuesday.
I was going to say Taco Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give you a pass on that one. Yeah, it's funny because all my friends, when I grew up, the Giants and Jets were terrible. Gee, that's a news flash, almost like what it is today. So all the kids actually liked all the other teams, like the Steelers, the Vikings, the Cowboys, the Dolphins. Very few people more like the Giants than the Jets. But when you were a kid, it wasn't cool to root for those teams. But I took my sucker punches and rooted for the Jets since day one, and still do. And that's probably the reason why I act the way I do. But nonetheless, so when I see different scores come up, I always think of like different people who are fans of that team. And as far as the Cleveland Browns are concerned, one of my friends used to live in the area. Now he moved to Chicago, and he was a big Brown fan. And we used to have dogs. We'd take our dogs to the dog park every weekend. We used to bust his chops all the time. Like in the last more than 5 years ago when the Browns were terrible. So now I get all these emails about the Browns. Oh, how the Judge doing? Blah, blah, blah. So he actually watched the broadcast, I think, last week when we talked about the Browns. And he goes, "You're a friggin' idiot. You said Curtis Mayfield." And I didn't even realize I did it. So my apologies to Baker Mayfield for calling him Curtis. And there you go. I made my retribution there and corrected my mistake there. But the Browns, I thought about that game. It looked like they were pulling ahead, and they gave up the lead again. And so it looked like that was an exciting game. I don't know if it was exciting as it was watching it on the ticker or not, but congrats on the Browns win yesterday.
Yeah, and they hosting the Bears next week, so that hopefully get another win. One of my best friends is a big Bears fan, so Todd, if you're watching, you're going to get many taunts from me via text this weekend, hopefully.
Well, hopefully Curtis Mayfield has a good game. And the last question, my general question of the day, your favorite movie of all time is?
Midnight Run. Have you seen it?
Oh, classic. I love that movie. It's so funny and hilarious. That's a good one.
Sadly, many members of that cast have now passed away in the last couple of years. Actually, two of them this year. The gentleman that played Alonzo Mosley, Yaphet Kotto, passed away, I believe, in January or February this year. And then Charles Grodin just passed away a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I've seen that movie. This is not an exaggeration. I've seen that movie about 60 times. Yeah,
and to me, that's how I kind of discovered Charles Grodin, was in that movie. And again, like Robert De Niro in Meet the Fockers, you realize he has a good comedic sense about him too. So that was perfect chemistry between those two. And when that came out, I saw it multiple times in the movie theaters. Now it gives me inspiration once sports calms down a bit to watch that one again. That was a good one. Well, we're on 42 minutes again, and we still have no commercial sponsors. Usually TV programs, when they're an hour, it's 42 minutes, and then we put in commercials. But we're at almost the 43-minute mark, so I think people may have had enough of us. So, Joey, once again, thank you again for hopping on board here. And I'll return the favor on Friday. And everyone, check out Joey's site, Utopian Baseball Universe. They're coming down to crunch time. And Joey has some humorous videos he puts up all the time. I'm not saying that you go there for laughs, but he does give color commentary during his games. So check him out, and check out his site if you're not a member. And I'll be there Friday. So don't let that discourage you from joining his group. But I'm there on Friday at 8:30, and the next time we'll speak again is then, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. And Monday, he's always here, same time, 8:30 morning and 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. So, Joey, enjoy the day. Go Packers tonight. And again, thanks for being a guest today.
Thanks, Dan. Always enjoy sharing time with you on the air. And again, we'll see you Friday in the cafe at 7:30 Central.
All right, sounds good. Take care, Joey, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.